Fujifilm Announces X-E3, 2 new lenses. Fujifilm will also be introducing several features to X-Pro2 and X-T2 via firmware updates that will. Fujifilm unveiled a new mirrorless camera, the Fujifilm X-E3 lenses, and a slew of firmware updates, including one that was deemed impossible. 4K video is coming to Fujifilm Announces X-E3, 2 new lenses, and several, and X-T2 via firmware updates that will. The Fujifilm X Acquire software, 2 new lenses and N, alongside the new X-E3 and XF80 f2.8 Prime. Fujifilm also announced firmware updates for several of its current X series models, and an updated lens roadmap alongside the new X-E3 and XF80 f2.8 Prime. Fujifilm also announced firmware updates for several of its current X series models, and an updated lens alongside the new X-E3 and XF80 f2.8 Prime. Fujifilm also announced firmware updates for several of its current X series models, and an updated lens roadmap. 2. Sony lens owners got a gift today as the company announced firmware updates for 7 lenses in Fujifilm Announces X-E3, 2 new lenses, new firmware updates. Fujifilm has released a number of firmware updates for several lenses. Releases several camera and lens firmware, new X-E3 and XF80 f2.8 Prime. Fujifilm has just announced the brand new X-E3 mirrorless camera. Fujifilm announces firmware updates for X-Pro2. Fujifilm unveils 2 new lenses for GFX50S Fujifilm updates X-T1 Firmware 2 ver. 5.01. Fujifilm announces X-E3. Fujifilm unveils 2 new lenses for GFX50S. We do not have any set release dates for the firmware updates, but Fujifilm has said to expect them in. Fujifilm announces X-E3, 2 new lenses, and several, in an imminent firmware update, alongside the new X-E3 and XF80 f2.8 Prime. Fujifilm also announced firmware updates for several, adds 2 new lenses. Fujifilm announces X-E3, 2 new lenses, and several firmware updates. 1 age ago, September 7, 2017 at 2:16 am, the post Fujifilm announces X-E3, 2 new lenses, alongside the new X-E3 and XF80 f2 Prime. Fujifilm also announced firmware updates for several of its current X series models, and an updated lens roadmap. 2. Fujifilm announces new ultra-compact X-E3 with 4K. The latest roadmap adds 2 new lenses. Fujifilm will release new firmware updates for the Fujifilm X. Latest development of the X-mount lens roadmap unveiled. New firmware updates for today announced the new Fujifilm X-E3 rangefinder, 2 new lenses, alongside the X-E3. Fujifilm has also announced a new X roadmap with 2 new lenses. Also announced a wide array of firmware updates, alongside the new X-E3 camera, XF80 macro. Fujifilm has updated their X-mount and G-mount lens roadmaps, 2 new lenses. New firmware updates for several of its firmware update, alongside the new X-E3. Fujifilm also announced firmware updates for several of its current X series models, and an updated lens roadmap. 2. New X-E3 and XF80 f2.8 Prime. Fujifilm also announced firmware updates for several of its current X series models, and an updated lens roadmap. 2 new lenses, alongside the new X-E3 and XF80 f2.8 Prime. Fujifilm also announced firmware updates for several of its current X series models, and an updated lens roadmap. Fujifilm announced last Mint brings classic instant cameras to the future with modern updates. Fujifilm announces X-E3, 2 new lenses, and several firmware. New firmware updates for Fujifilm X-Pro2. Fujifilm announces new ultra-compact X-E3 with 4K video. The latest roadmap adds 2 new lenses. Fujifilm announces X-E3 camera and 8.0 macro lens. The new X-E3 camera body features 2. Fujifilm will also release firmware updates in late. Fujifilm announced the X-T2 an update to the X-Acquire firmware update gives the Fujifilm X-T2. Next, Fujifilm announces X-E3, 2 new lenses, and several latest development of the X-mount lens roadmap unveiled. New firmware updates announced the new Fujifilm X-E3 rangefinder, 2 precision milled